How we doing, everybody? And welcome to Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage Austin, playing hooky again. He will be back tomorrow. Glad to have him back tomorrow there. But for today, we got a lot to talk about here on the show. We have the Badgers. We're going to be talking about the Badgers just a little bit here, talking about Badger basketball, jumping into the Packers, getting into the Heisman finalists. They released the Heisman finalists. Just want to get some talk about the Heisman a little bit, see what we think is going to win that. And then also MLB winter meetings are happening right now. We're going to get into the Brewers a little bit today. I want to talk about some of the Brewers' needs moving into next year. Talk about some of the players that I believe the Brewers should be looking at there in free agency to try and pick up to bolster this lineup and pitching staff going into next season. But with that, let's start out right away with the Badgers. And you know, we've been talking about the Badgers a lot this week. They've been coming off a lot of impressive wins. And I just want to talk about what's leading to this success for the Badgers. You know, we've talked about it game after game, the things that we think the Badgers are doing well in these games. And I just really want to dig deep into it and really emphasize some of the main points. So the big thing for the Badgers right now is I'm seeing spread across scoring for the Badgers right now. AJ Storr averaging 14 points a game. Steven Crowell adding in his 12 per game right now. Tyler Wall and Chucky Hepburn both sitting around 10 per game right now, and John Blackwell adding 9. You almost have 5 guys right there in double figures. John Blackwell, 9 points a game coming off the bench for the Badgers. They're only averaging about 17 minutes per game, so that's pretty darn good out of a freshman there coming off the bench for the Badgers. And Max Klesman is sitting at 7 right now for this Badger team. So I look at that, and I say it's the even scoring for the Badgers right now that's really impressing me right now. Having guys who night in and night out, AJ Storr can get hot, Steven Crowell can get hot, Chucky can do some stuff for you, Tyler Wall can get involved, and John Blackwell. We saw Max Klesman get involved in it. We're just missing a piece right now. We're missing some pieces getting hot. I think that's going to come with time with Connor Essegian, maybe a guy like Nolan Winter having a couple big games here and a couple games here, a couple games there, you know, getting more involved in this offense. So right now, Badgers really impressed me with the spread out scoring right now. Steven Crowell has been coming up big for the Badgers, I really do think. Not just with the scoring, but also with his ability to move the ball around there, averaging 2.3 assists per game right now. Doesn't really stand out, not a huge number, but at the same time, right now, they get the ball into him and they try to double. He has got a great presence to find that out, the kick out right now, and to look across court. And his across court pass has been pretty darn good so far this season for the Badgers there with Steven Crowell. Tyler Wall, he's impressed me on the offensive glass. Aggression has been a big thing for Tyler Wall. I think he's scoring. He is getting involved in the scoring at times. But I think the biggest thing with Tyler Wall that I've been loving is how aggressive he's been, especially on the offensive glass. He's only at 5 rebounds per game right now, but the last couple, he's been averaging about 4 or 5 offensive rebounds per game. I think that's been huge for the Badgers. They're controlling that offensive glass, and I think they have to continue that moving forward. Chucky Hepburn, I think this season being more involved moving the basketball around, not being as in tune to scoring, not really being relied on to score a lot, but being able to be that facilitator. I think that's been a big thing for Chucky. Picking and choosing times when he needs to score, when that opportunity's there for him. But when the opportunity's there for somebody else to be able to take the rock and make it happen, I think Chucky's done a great job. AJ Storr, he is that dynamic, athletic guy that the Badgers were missing last year that they got now this year here. And I think AJ Storr has been the underlying factor for this Badger team here early on. His bounce is unreal. His ability to be able to extend the defense, get out and shoot it. That's a big thing across the board for the Badgers right now, is the ability for a lot of these guys to be able to shoot the three-pointer. Right now, looking at percentages, Steven Crowell is shooting 77% from downtown. AJ Storr is 29. Looking at John Blackwell, he's about 43% from downtown. Chucky Hepburn, 26. And Max Klesman is sitting at 33. Impressive three-point shooting from the Badgers here so far to start this year. But the big thing is not that they're doing so well at the three-point line and, you know, hitting shots when they're open. It's been a lot to do with what's going on in the paint. I think the Badgers are doing an excellent job kind of demanding the ball in the post and making it happen when they get the ball down there, finishing at the rim. That was a big thing last year. the Badgers lacked was the aggression and being able to finish at the rim. And going into this year here, having Steven Crowell, having Tyler Wall, especially last year, Tyler Wall wasn't very good for this Badger team finishing at the rim. And that was coming off back from that injury. I don't think he ever truly healed from that injury. I think he tried to play through it, and I think that was a big problem for Tyler Wall. He's got that bounce back. He's got those moves back, and I think that's big for Tyler Wall. He's a smaller guy playing a bigger position, and I think a lot of it comes from the lower body with him. Not being able to use that last year was a killer for Tyler Wall, and I think going into this year here, finally healthy, finally back, it's kind of a revenge year for Tyler Wall to see what he's got, show us what he's got. And I think he's doing a great job of it so far. And then looking at a guy like Steven Crowell, this was going to be a big season for Steven Crowell. We wanted to see aggression out of Steven Crowell, going up against guys like Zach Edey, Kofi Coburn over the years here in the Big Ten, Hunter Dickinson, a couple of big guys there for opposing Big Ten opponents there. And Steven Crowell has done a fabulous job so far this year, kind of controlling the paint, making it his. And I think that's going to be a big thing for the Badgers moving forward. When you get into Big Ten play, having a dominant big guy is huge. Look at what Purdue does with Zach Edey. Zach Edey's the engine that makes that entire team go. And Steven Crowell, the way that Steven Crowell goes is the way that the Badgers go. When Steven Crowell is a big game, Badgers generally come out on top. Look at his last game against Michigan State there. Michigan State couldn't really defend Steven Crowell. He extended him out, got involved in the three-point line, and I think that is a key for the Badgers there, is to be able to extend defenses. When you can't hit the three ball consistently, they were able to pack it in. And against Michigan State, they were able to spread them out. Early on, they were packing in the lane, and I think that was going to be a problem for the Badgers if they couldn't find it from downtown. And looking at what they did with Steven Crowell being able to hit a couple big threes early on, that extended out that defense. Once that defense was extended, then we were able to work inside. So I think that is going to be big, especially going up against a team like Arizona coming up here this weekend. Being able to knock down shots from the perimeter is going to be a massive thing for the Badgers there to try and pull off an upset against Arizona. Right now, improvements that can be made for the Badgers is at times the offense still gets stagnant. They still get kind of hesitant to be able to move the basketball around. When this offense is right, you look at that game against Marquette there in the second half, they were moving the basketball. They were moving the ball around, making things happen by moving the ball, getting it into the post, letting Steven Crowell go to work, finding kickouts, everything like that. And I think that's going to be a big thing for Wisconsin here, is to continue to work on that offense, improving that offense. Another big thing is going to be the development of AJ Storr. I thought, we talked about it yesterday a little bit. Earlier on this season, he was playing on discipline, taking a lot of bad shots. I thought for this Badger team, a lot of undisciplined shots where he was falling. He was trying to push the issue. And I think, looking at that Michigan State game, besides a couple of plays there, I thought he played within himself. He played within the offense. And I think that's going to be a big thing, is the development of AJ Storr within this Wisconsin team. Last year, playing for St. John's, he was more reliant on, to try and do it himself. And now going to a team like Wisconsin, where it's more of we have to play as a team to win. That's just how it is. If you try to play selfish basketball, try to do it by yourself, it ain't going to happen. This offense isn't going to flow like it's supposed to, especially playing in a conference like the Big Ten. The Big Ten is still a conference that is more reliant on the defensive side. So this Wisconsin team is going to have to continue working at that throughout this season. Also, another thing the Badgers need to keep improving on is their ability to get the ball in the post. At times, they avoid the post, it seems like. It's like they don't want to get it in there, and they miss a lot of mismatches down in the post there. And I think the Badgers have to do a better job of getting the ball into the post. Like I just said, when they get the ball into the post, the Badgers play phenomenal. They have a great offensive scheme then when the ball's moving through Steven Crowell and the ball's moving through Tyler Wall. They can get cuts going to the basket. Everything opens up. When you avoid the post, the offense, the defense is able to kind of lax against this Badger team. They aren't a team that's going to shot create in that kind of sense. They've had moments. AJ Storr seems like he can shot create at times. So can Chucky. Max Klesmit was doing against Marquette. That was just an unreal game from Max Klesmit. But this team isn't consistent when they have to shot create. They got to work through the offense to be able to create shots, step into the shot. And that's going to be a big thing. Like I was saying with the Badgers, is to get the ball into the post and let it work through there to allow that offense to fully move. Underlying factor, I was talking about Steven Crowell. I got another one. It's going to be Connor Essegian here moving forward. I don't think it's going to be against, it could be. It definitely could be against Arizona, where he has his coming out party. Some people say that some of the biggest games for guys are against the top opponents that they're going to face. And I think a guy like Connor Essegian could shine in a game against Arizona. But I do think having this game against Jacksonville State and Chicago State after it, I think those are going to be big opportunities for Connor Essegian to really work and get himself involved in the offense. Get that shot right, get the defense right, get everything working in the right direction, and then see more minutes from Connor Essegian moving forward. Only 4 against Michigan State. Did hit a 3 in that one, 1 for 1. I want to see more minutes out of Connor Essegian because I think he could be a deadly force off the bench for the Badgers moving forward. I really do think Connor Essegian is a key to this Badgers team's success down the road. I just don't think we've seen it so far. Greg Gard's been heavily reliant on this starting 5, and rightfully so. I mean, the starting 5 has been playing well for the Badgers. It's hard to, right away this season, we were talking Max Klesman for John Blackwell going in for him. And, John Blackwell plays well off the bench. Klesman has his games here and there. I do think Connor Essegian needs to find his down the road here. Also, the development of Nolan Winter along the way here. They're going to run into games where Steven Crowell is going to get into foul trouble. And I think that is going to be a big thing, is seeing what Nolan Winter can do in those minutes when Steven Crowell is out of the game. Nolan Winter can ring it up from downtown. He can move it in the paint. We've seen that. We saw that early on in the season. That's why he's getting the minutes that he is. So hopefully we see the development of Nolan Winter along the way here for this Badger team. That's just a couple of the things that I'm seeing with the Badgers right now. We're going to get more into the Badgers here tomorrow as we talk about that game coming up against Arizona this Saturday. That is going to be a massive matchup for Wisconsin. Can't wait to watch it there. But with that, I want to jump over to the Packers quick. Just a couple of snippets. I was seeing a lot of people talking about it, and they were talking about, is Jordan Love good enough to take this Packers team to the playoffs? So I just wanted to look at some of the quarterbacks here in the league and just see where they're all sitting at right now. So we look at the season leaders right now in the NFL. 4 quarterbacks. Jordan Love right now, QBR, he's sitting about the middle of the league right now, sitting at about 58 there, QBR. So Jordan Love isn't at the top. He is definitely not at the top. But if we take this and we look at it as of late, if we really look at this lately, what Jordan Love's been doing for this Packers team, what has impressed me with Jordan Love is the decision-making is getting a little bit better. And that's what we wanted to see. His decision-making early on in the season was terrible. I thought he was making a lot of bad reads. He was throwing the ball late. I think he's getting a little bit better in that aspect. And with that decision-making is limiting the turnovers. Turnovers were a problem for Jordan Love there for a stretch. The decision to throw it at, it comes with timing. Everything like that. Timing was off. And it seemed like he was throwing 5 seconds too late. And he was throwing the deep ball 10 seconds too late because the ball was 15 yards short. It seems like that's slowly starting to develop here. And a lot of it has to do with the development of these receivers for the Packers right now. Seeing guys like Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, Christian Watson came into his own against the Chiefs there. Even guys like Malik Heath. Guys like that just slowly stepping up for this Packer team. I think that's been impressive so far down this stretch here. If you would have told me, like I said earlier on in this season, if you would have told me the Packers were going to win the game against the Lions and the Chiefs, I'd have laughed at you. I'd have told you were nuts. No way that this Packers team plays with the Lions, that they beat the Chiefs. No way. And beat them both. They're on a 3-game win streak right now. And that is a lot to do with how well Jordan Love in this offense has been playing. You look at even guys like Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft in this last game played well in the absence of Luke Musgrave. Until Luke Musgrave's back, we got Tucker Kraft. We have Ben Sims in there. And both those guys played well in the absence of Luke Musgrave. And I thought that was impressive to see. The running back room concerns me right now. A.J. Dillon played a great game against the Chiefs. I thought he played well against the Lions too. But it's almost like you just wait for something to fail again. I really do think if anything's going to fail, it's going to be in that run game, because A.J. Dillon, we watched it early on this year. He's a bruiser of a running back. He's not the big yardage guy. And I think that's what they're missing right now, is the big yardage guy. James Robinson been working in there a little bit. Patrick Taylor a little bit too, but I really do think you're missing Aaron Jones right now. Even a guy like Emmanuel Wilson right now coming out of camp there, he looked impressive. And I just think you're missing guys like that right now for this Packers team. I think moving forward, I really do think that this Packers team, they're going to be A-okay. I think they're going to be A-okay in the run game. I think that the slow development of A.J. Dillon kind of figured it out. The offensive line has been massive for the Packers, I've felt, throughout this stretch here. The offensive line has led to the development of what A.J. Dillon's been doing as of late. He struggled to start the year, but he was getting hit at the line. Now you move into these last couple weeks, the offensive line blocking a lot better, making holes for A.J. Dillon, letting him rumble ahead, get to the linebackers, get to the safety level there, get 10 yards, get 15 yards of crack. It's been impressive, this offensive line for the Packers, finally getting healthy. That's the big thing. Getting Elton Jenkins back, getting guys like Josh Nijman back, getting everybody healthy on that offensive line, getting some coherency in there, some consistency day after day to be able to work with these guys and see what you have there on the offensive line. I think that's been good for this Packers team. That's what's led to the success here of the run game. But I just want to look at a little bit too, just looking at some of the stats of this Packers team. So looking at the team stats right now, passing right now for the Packers, they're towards the bottom of the league right now in passing yards on the offense. Looking at rushing yards for the Packers, again, not so great in the rushing yards. They're sitting about middle of the pack right now. But we look at, before I jump to defense, we're going to look at scoring offense here. And right now, their total touchdowns, they are about middle of the pack again. They're towards the top there, 30 touchdowns on the year compared to the Dolphins, 50. So the offense has been producing. But the thing I want to look at is the defense, because the defense for the Packers, everybody's talked about all year. And I talked about it too. I can't deny. I talked about it too. Joel Barry has struggled as the defensive coordinator for the Packers ever since he walked into the room. And this season, as of late, this defense has been playing impressive football for us. Look at passing yards so far this year, giving up 2,624. That is right now sitting at 8th in the league right now in passing yards. So impressive there on the defensive side. Looking at rushing yards, that's the thing that hurts the Packers right now, sitting at third to last in the league right now. 1,635 yards given up on the ground so far this year. Surprisingly, the Bears have one of the better run defenses in the league. They're tied for first there in rush yards with the 49ers. So kind of impressive there out of the Bears that they actually have a stat impressive like that. Same with the Patriots. But this run defense for the Packers is what has killed them so far. Because you take a look over at scoring defense for this Packers team, they have one of the best scoring defenses in the league right now. I think they were sitting at eighth in scoring defense last time I looked, 8th or 9th in scoring defense. So just impressive work out of this defense, especially with having guys like, it's a constant revolving door, it seems. We don't have Jair is out. Okay, so now we're bringing in another corner to play in this game. And then we don't have Rudy Ford. Rudy Ford's out for a while. So now Jonathan Owens gets put in there. And now we don't have guys like Savage in there anymore. Eric Stokes has been out all season long. The revolving door at the linebacker position. Campbell's constantly out. Quay Walker's out a lot. Looking at the defensive line, you don't know, it seems like Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt, those guys always on the injury report. So you look across the board there with that defense, and it's like it's hard to find consistency right there, but the Packers are somehow making it work. And that's the big thing that I credit, and I credit the entire coaching staff for this. And that is, you look at the offensive side, the youngest offense in the NFL, the youngest offense. And Matt LaFleur told us, like he said, we have to wait. You have to wait until this offense slowly starts to develop together. And when you watch them develop together, they're going to get better and better. We watched it, and we waited, and now we're seeing it. And you look at the defensive side. We all wanted to shoot on Joel Barry. We had to get him out of here. Joel Barry this defense for the Packers has held strong throughout the season. I think that has been humongous for this Packers team, is how well the defense has played for this Packers team. Looking at guys like Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt, Kenny Clark, Devondre Campbell, Rudy Ford. Losing Rasul Douglas, I thought was going to be a killer for the defense. I really did. And they just, went on with life and just continued to do what they were doing. Having guys step in like Jonathan Owens and playing great football, that has helped this Packers team. Joel Berry can't figure out the run defense right now, but on the flip side of it, can't figure out the run defense, but his pass defense, great. Their defensive scoring, great. So, it's like you want to nitpick at things, but right now, the way that the Packers are trending, you leave it. You watch this team blossom. And right now, we're watching this team blossom before our eyes. We don't want to jump to conclusions, but right now, this team is a playoff team. I see them as a playoff team. They have the pieces. The pieces are growing. The offense is the thing that was killing us early on in the season. Their offense is slowly starting to figure out. Jordan Love's figuring it out. The wide receivers are figuring it out. And, in the running back room, if you get healthy, that's going to be a strong suit again. The offensive line is getting strong. The defense is holding true. It is right now, it's just this team, the way I've looked at it since that Lions game, since the Chargers game. And the Chargers are a struggling team, so it's hard to look at the Chargers. So you look at the Lions, you look at the Chiefs, and you look at those two games and you say to yourself, okay, if this is the Packer football that we see the rest of the way, this is a Packers team that you don't want to face. And, I talked about it yesterday. There's some teams that I didn't think the Packers could beat. The Eagles, the Cowboys, and the 49ers. I don't think the Packers could beat them, but I think they could give them a run. I really do. I think they can give them a run for their money. I don't think they beat the 49ers. But I do think they can play. I think they can go out there and they can ball it with them. The way that Matt LaFleur's been calling the offense, the way that Jordan Love's been slinging it, the way that he's been making decisions, the way that these receivers are playing, I think that they can play it with the 49ers. You don't want to get in a shootout. Your defense is going to have to play well. But I think that they can play with that 49ers team. Same with the Eagles. Same with the Cowboys. Those are all fantastic teams. They have their weaknesses, though. We've seen it. They have their weaknesses. And I really do think the Packers could definitely, they could make some noise. And, you don't want to jump, like I said, jumping to conclusions is the worst thing you can do. But I can jump to the conclusion and say that this Packers team right now, playing as they are, you just beat two of the top teams in the NFL, the Lions and the Chiefs. Now you play the Giants. You play the Vikings yet. You have the Buccaneers yet. You play the Bears yet. All winnable games. You could end this season 11-6. You can be in the playoffs. You can get one of those teams and you can show them. You can, develop. And that's the thing. And if the Packers have a first round exit, I won't even be mad. I won't be mad. I won't. Because this Packers team, the way that it started, I thought there was no way. And the way that they have slowly developed into what they are today has just impressed me more than anything. So that's where I'm at right now with the Packers. We're going to talk about the Packers a lot more tomorrow there in the preview. But with that, I want to jump over into our sponsor here. We have a new sponsorship. I wanted to announce we have a new sponsorship with the show, Game Day Supply in Onalaska. And with Christmas just around the corner, you may need to still get some things on that list. You might not have all the things checked off the shopping list yet. Check out our friends at Game Day Supply. They offer skate sharpening and hockey accessories, custom fielding gloves. Check out their website. Some of the sweetest fielding gloves you'll see for baseball and softball. Also, Evo Shield. And they also carry a wide variety of baseball and softball bats from DeMarini to Louisville Slugger and Marucci. They have it all at Game Day Supply in Onalaska, or check them out online at gamedaysupply.net. And with that, get onto that website, because with your order of $150, you can find some sweet stuff at Game Day Supply. With that order of $150, you get free shipping. That is what you got to get this holiday season. Get all your shopping done for your sports fanatic friends or anything else at Game Day Supply. Also, if you're looking for uniforms, if you have a youth program that's looking for uniforms, they do custom uniforms at Game Day Supply. So definitely check them out, gamedaysupply.net, or if you're in the Onalaska area, La Crosse area, anywhere down there, you're traveling through there, check them out in Onalaska. definitely worth the stop. But with that, let's jump over into the Heisman finalists here. They were announced. Right now, it's looking like we have Marvin Harrison from Ohio State. Marvin Harrison, he had 67 passes for 1,211 yards and 14 more scores this last season here. Definitely a great season from one of the best NFL draft prospects and one of the most outstanding college football players this last season here. It was an impressive season there for Marvin Harrison. I got to say, watching Marvin Harrison there, he was definitely the big reason why the Buckeyes finished with 11 wins there. He had a huge game against the Badgers, helped the Buckeyes escape that Wisconsin game, had huge games against Michigan in the regular season finale, had 5 catches for 118 yards. Penn State, a team that was ranked in the top 10. He caught 11 passes for 162 yards and a touchdown. And he caught a touchdown in all but 2 games this year. And both Notre Dame and Indiana were games the Buckeyes struggled on offense. So you see how much Marvin Harrison meant to that Ohio State team. Looking at the next up, Bo Nix from Oregon. He had a fantastic year for Oregon. He had he connected nearly on 80% of his throws, 77.2 for 4,145 yards and 40 touchdowns, leading Oregon to that Pac-12 championship game there. He was among the FBS leaders in a number of categories. Completion percentage, he was first. Yards, he was second. Yards per attempt, he was fourth. Adjusted yards per attempt, he was fourth. Touchdowns tied for first, and NCAA passer rating, he was second. He's been one of the most efficient passers in all of college football. But this last season really proved it here for Bo Nix. Next up, Michael Penix Jr. He had an impressive year for the Washington Huskies. He had 4,218 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 3 rushing touchdowns as well. Brought his team into that Pac-12 championship game, beat Bo Nix in there, took his team as the number 2 seed to the final college football playoff rankings. He was impressive. Finished the regular season first in the nation in passing yards, third in passing touchdowns, and top 10 in adjusted net yards per attempt. Those stats do not really compare to other on the list, but his average throw depth was impressive. And he's taking a lot of trick shots and nailing them. That's the big thing, is that this Washington offense was able to really flow through Michael Penix. Last up, Jaden Daniels from LSU. He accounted for almost 5,000 yards of total offense and 50 total touchdowns, guiding the Tigers to one of their best offensive seasons ever. I mean, you look at the stats, he finished in the top 25 in the nation for rushing yards and added 10 touchdowns on the ground. LSU finished in the top 5 in terms of yards per game first and points per game fourth. He had his deep ball accuracy took off this year. With it came the offense explosion for LSU was just unreal. Running for almost 234 yards and 2 touchdowns, and also throwing for 374 and 3 touchdowns against Florida. Just impressive stats all the way around from Daniels. Led college football in most statistical categories there for quarterbacks. One of the first to have over 3,000 yards passing, over 1,000 yards on the ground. So impressive out of Jaden Daniels there. If I had to put my top 4, I would have Jaden Daniels. I would have Michael Penix. I would honestly throw in Marvin Harrison and then Bo Nix. And, it's tough. You could throw Bo Nix in the 3. You probably would. You probably would throw Bo Nix in the 3. I just got to say, Marvin Harrison, it's tough. Receivers get it tough, especially in a award like this, because a lot of these, like the Heisman, goes to the quarterback. That's just how it goes. But what Marvin Harrison did, you look at these games for Ohio State there, and you just look at it. The 2 games where he did not catch a touchdown, Ohio State struggled against Notre Dame and Indiana. And, that just shows how instrumental he was to this Ohio State Buckeyes offense. And I think that speaks volume to what Marvin Harrison means to his football team. And I think that's a big thing to the Heisman, is that they were the most valuable player. And Marvin Harrison was one of the most valuable players as he was voted into the top 4. And I do believe that he could be in the top 3 conversation for most valuable players in college football to their team this year, if that's the way you look at it. So I would have Jaden Daniels as my number 1 winning the Heisman this year, though. So with that, I just want to jump over into the MLB winter meetings, the Brewers. The Brewers here, going into the meetings, we watched last season with this Brewers team, and I just want to pull up real quick here the Brewers, just their roster from last year. Looking at the Brewers and what I would do with this Brewers team. So right now, you lost pieces in Mark Canha. You lost pieces in Carlos Santana. Guys walking out the door. Also was reported today that Victor Caratini would be playing elsewhere. It looked like the Houston Astros were signing up Victor Caratini. So good news for Caratini. Hopefully he gets good playing time there with the Houston Astros if that goes through. I know it's pending physical, so we'll see how that goes through. But looking at this Brewers team right now, looking at the roster, infield-wise, Willy Adames technically back as of right now. Bryce Terang, Andrew Monasterio, having guys like Owen Miller. Jake Bowers was traded for Vinny Capara and Oliver Dunn, all on the active roster right now for the Brewers. I look at the infield for the Brewers, and that's where my biggest question marks are. Right now in the outfield, I don't have questions. You have guys Jackson Charles, Sal Frelick, Garrett Mitchell, Blake Perkins, Tyrone Taylor, Joey Weimer, Christian Yelich. You have your outfield figured out. There is nothing. I mean, you have so many outfielders, it's not even funny. You're going to make trades here and there, or you're going to have to put guys in the minors, one of the two, but your outfield's figured out. When I look at the Brewers, I say to myself, what do the Brewers need? Well, we definitely need a first baseman. Right now, I don't trust Jake Bowers to be my everyday first baseman. I really don't. So, first base is where I'm looking. Third base, what I would do, Willy Adames struggled last year. I know Bryce Terang is going to be my shortstop of the future. I move Bryce Terang to shortstop. I trade Willy Adames. That's what I would do personally. I would not bring Willy Adames back. I think he's just kind of he's just preventing Bryce Terang from taking the spot that we know Bryce Terang's going to end up at. I think Bryce Terang should be the everyday shortstop. I would be okay if Willy Adames was traded away. If you can find a package. Maybe you package up guys like, I don't know, Joey Weimer and Willy Adames, or you package up guys like Willy Adames and Corbin Burns and ship them out. I think the Brewers could definitely find a package to send out Willy Adames, but move Bryce Terang over to short. I think you move Andrew Monasterio to second base. I was impressed with what Andrew Monasterio did last season. I think he has earned a spot, at least a shot, at the starting second baseman role. And what I would do if I'm the Brewers, so you get rid of Willy Adames off the books there, and now I'm looking first base, third base. I need a first baseman. I need a third baseman. Third base, I need a third baseman for a year or two. I don't need a third baseman forever, because Tyler Black is coming up through that minor league system fast. And Tyler Black is a good third baseman. He's a good hitter. And I think he's going to develop into that spot for the Brewers. So I'm not trying to find my third baseman forever. I'm trying to find somebody to hold the place for a year or two. First base, I don't see any prospects on the horizon for first base. So unless if you move a guy like Joey Weimer, like Christian Yelich over to first base, I don't see anybody right now for first base. Maybe Owen Miller, but I would still be in the market for that first base. Also, some relief help. I think you always need to be looking for relievers right now. The Brewers returning Elvis Peguero, Yoel Pampas, Devin Williams. You're going to have good relievers in that sense. Looking across the board there, Trevor McGill coming back. Hopefully have a good bounce back year from Trevor McGill there. Also, Abner Uribe. You want to see a good improvement on Abner Uribe there, and Bryce Wilson. You have some good relievers coming back, but it wouldn't hurt to get a dominant bullpen arm. I think the Brewers could definitely use one. Also, starting pitching. Corbin Burns, you don't know if you're going to have him opening day, and Brandon Woodruff gone. Freddie Peralta, I know they've talked about him in trades. So you have guys like that. I am expecting to see Freddie back, but Corbin Burns, don't know, and Woodruff is gone. So you got to be looking at starting pitching right now if you are the Brewers. You did get Wade Miley back, and you did sign Joe Ross, whatever Joe Ross develops into being. But I do think the Brewers need to look at the starting pitching pool and see what they can do in that aspect. So with that, I just want to look some of the guys who are available in some of those roles, see what I think about them right now. So on the third base side, I have guys kind of listed here that in the free agent market that I believe could be a solid ad for the Brewers. So first off, I want to look over at the first baseman for the Brewers. Now I'm going to run through the list, and then I'm going to pick out my 5 guys that I believe the Brewers should be pursuing or looking at. So first base wise, we have Cody Bellinger, Carlos Santana, Brandon Belt, Rhys Hoskins, Justin Turner, Mike Ford, Jake Lamb, Dominic Smith, CJ Cron, and Yuli Gurriel. So I look at those guys from that list there, and I jump to a couple. And my first one is Yamir Candiero. Last year, he was with I didn't even name him on that list. He is a first baseman, third baseman for the Cubs last season. So we'll double down here. I would look at this guy because of his versatility. Last season, looking at his stats there in 2023, split between the Nationals and the Cubs, hit 297 with the Nationals there. He had, let's see if we can, that's his advanced. I don't want the advanced. Oh, now everything's slowing down on me here. Everything is slowing down right away. Last year, Candiero was a great third baseman for the Nationals, had impressive stats coming over from the Nationals to the Cubs. And when he arrived with the Cubs there, see if I can get this thing to pull up here. He was 251 with the Cubbies, or with the Nationals, 251 in the season. And now we're not loading for some reason. We're getting slow on me here. But Yamir Caliendo was great down the stretch there last season. Looking at other guys on the list, Cody Bellinger, he's going to come at a high asking price, I do believe. He, last year with the Cubs, impressed. The Cubs really turned him around there on the offensive side. His hitting got tremendously better, and I thought that was impressive out of Cody Bellinger. Also, guys like Carlos Santana. Bringing Carlos Santana back to the Brewers. I thought, in that short little stint he had last season there, I was impressed with what he did with the Brewers. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't anything crazy, but I thought he was a solid defensive first baseman for the Brewers. He hit well down the stretch, and I think bringing him back would not hurt the Brewers at all to hold down that place for just a little bit there, especially if you believe guys like Jake Bauer or Owen Miller could be an option there. Having him in that position would not be a bad thing. But also, I just wanted to look at a couple other guys here. Rhys Hoskins, he was impressive last year for the Phillies. Can't really take away from what Rhys Hoskins was doing for the Phillies. I just want to pull up his stats here. For some reason, the internet is slowing down on me on the computer here, so I can't get that to pull up, but the phone's working. So we're going to pull up Rhys Hoskins' stats last season there. Pulling it up right now. Rhys Hoskins last season for the Phillies. Well, now nothing is pulling up, so we're not going to get into the stats about Rhys Hoskins. Well, what the heck? Okay, we're having technical difficulties on my end here, but we're going to jump out of that there. CJ Cron, another guy I had on that list at first base. CJ Cron was impressive with the Rockies last year before heading out to the Angels. I thought, maybe seeing a guy like CJ Cron, I talked about guys like this coming to the Brewers there at the trade deadline. Brewers didn't pull the trigger on him. I really do think bringing guys like that over in free agency wouldn't be a bad thing for this Brewers team. Also, just wanted to look at Yuli Gurriel. I thought Yuli Gurriel would be a pretty good option for the Brewers. Looking at his time with the Astros, he was impressive with the Astros for years. He was a power threat for this Astros team. And I just think he could bring a dynamic to the Brewers just like that, a power hitting first baseman. Not really a big average guy, 245. Technical difficulties averted. We're back on the stats. So 245 last season for Yuli with 27 RBIs and 4 home runs, only 108 games though out of Yuli last season there and 298 at bats. 44 strikeouts though. So his strikeout rate was a little bit lower there in Miami, but Yuli Gurriel would be a pretty good option for the Brewers there. Looking at his time spent with the Astros, you go back to years like 2021, 15 home runs, 2019, he had 31, 2020 and 2022, limited at bats there again. But those years there, I mean, power threat all the way around, 104 RBIs in 2019 for Yuli Gurriel. So he would definitely be a great option for this Brewers team at first base down the stretch. Let's see if we can pull up those stats now for some of these other guys here. Rhys Hoskins. Last year, I believe, was... I know he was injured last season. I don't know. Yeah, that's right. That is right. He was injured early on last season. He had that ACL tear. So Rhys Hoskins will be coming off of injury. That's why I forgot about that, pulling up the stats there. He underwent surgery March 30th to repair his torn ACL, and he never did come back last season. So that's why I could not find the stats on him. That makes sense now. But Rhys Hoskins coming off of injury. Rhys Hoskins in the past, what we've seen out of him has been impressive with the Phillies. He's been a power hitting threat at that first base spot. Possibly you could see a slightly smaller contract with a guy like Rhys Hoskins just because of that injury, coming off of injury, kind of banking on himself. You might be able to get him on a shorter deal to play first base just because of that. But with that, I want to jump over into the third baseman here. I have on my list for third baseman right now Matt Chapman, Justin Turner, Gio Urshela, Evan Longoria, Caldiero, also on my third base list. Brian Anderson, former Brewer and former Marlin on there. Gene Segura and Eduardo Escobar. So my main guys I'm looking at, Matt Chapman, Justin Turner, Evan Longoria, Caldiero, and Eduardo Escobar. We're not going to talk about Caldiero because we already talked about him, but jump into Eduardo Escobar right away. Brewers acquired Eduardo Escobar. When was that? 2021, they had him on the roster. And Eduardo hit well for the Brewers. 268, coming over for the Diamondbacks that year. Hit 268 with the Brewers. Hit well. And I thought, maybe bringing him back wasn't a bad idea. Brewers ended up not bringing him back. He ended up going to, I believe it was the Mets. Ended up with the Mets. Mets didn't really want him anymore, so they ended up with the Angels there. He hit 226 with in 2023, 236 with the Mets, and then 219 with the Angels in kind of a dumpster fire situation. But with Escobar, you're bringing over experience there at third base. You're bringing over a guy who we know can hit. He's going to be more of a contact hitter for you. He's had years of high average. He's had years of average. He's not going to demand a high contract. And I think that's what the Brewers can kind of avoid here is a high contract third baseman. You want to get somebody over on this Brewers team that's going to add a thump. But at the same time, you don't want to sign a guy for a long time or for a lot of money because you're going to have a guy like Tyler Black coming up shortly to this Brewers team. I believe he's in AAA already. So you're going to have guys like that coming up. So Eduardo Escobar could be a decent option for him. Also, Justin Turner. We've had years of watching Justin Turner. We've had years of maybe we should sign Justin Turner in free agency. We never do. Justin Turner, looking at the stats from last season with the Red Sox, he was a 276 hitter, 146 games played. He had, I believe, 23 home runs last season and 96 RBI. So Justin Turner, all around, last season, a solid hitter for the Boston Red Sox, and plays third base, can play first base. He's going to be a DH for you too. Justin Turner would be a very good option for the Brewers for his versatility around the field and at the DH position. I think that could be a big thing for the Brewers, is getting a guy like Justin Turner into the fold. Also, I talked about Matt Chapman in there. The only thing that's going to be wrong with Matt Chapman, bringing Matt Chapman into the fold here, is Matt Chapman is going to demand a pretty high contract. He's a little bit, it's not like I believe that he is over the top that fantastic. He is, last season, hit 240 with the Blue Jays, 17 home runs, 54 RBIs, nothing crazy, 140 games played. He wasn't over the top that great last season for the Blue Jays, but I just believe that Matt Chapman's going to ask for a boatload of money. I just get that feeling Matt Chapman's going to be asking a little bit more than what he's really worth down the stretch. So Matt Chapman, I believe, market value right now, just because of the lack of third baseman, is going to be a little bit higher. Maybe see some other big club pick him up. Brewers could be in the conversation with him. I just don't believe that the Brewers would go out and pick him up just because of money wise. Also, last one I want to look at, and that is Evan Longoria. Evan Longoria last season with the Diamondbacks wasn't that fantastic, I gotta say, but veteran leadership is what the Brewers love. We signed Josh Donaldson last year for veteran leadership. And last season for Arizona, 223 hitter. He had 11 home runs, 28 RBIs. Evan Longoria played well for that Diamondbacks team. And we saw it as Brewer fans. We saw him play third base. He can still play a pretty good third base. So don't hold out on Evan Longoria. 244 the year before that, 261 the year before that with the Giants. So he has still got it in him to be able to be a solid hitter. So Evan Longoria could be an option for the Brewers. It would not surprise me if he was one of the options the Brewers are looking at for help at third base. Next up, I want to look at relievers, and just quick skim through them here. I want to see the Brewers bring back Brent Suter. I really do. I think Brent Suter pitched well with the Rockies last year, and I think Brent Suter, coming back to Milwaukee, I think Brent Suter could fit into Milwaukee's bullpen very well. Bring a lefty presence down there with Hobie, and I think that would be a good thing for the Brewers, is to have a reunion with the Raptor, bringing him back. Also, guys like Will Smith, bringing him back to Milwaukee. Will Smith been out of Milwaukee for a while now, but Will Smith, a veteran presence in that bullpen for the Brewers, and I think that could be something the Brewers are missing, a veteran presence down there. Looking at his career stats last year with Texas, he had a 4 ERA there in 57 innings. Looking at the year before that with Houston, he had 22 innings and a 3 ERA. So not a bad ERA across the board for Will Smith. I would not be opposed to bringing a guy like Will Smith back to the Brewers. Also, I'm looking at guys like Wandy Peralta. Saw him with the Yankees last year. He kind of had his moments where he struggled, but I do believe the Brewers have done well with pitching and being able to fix pitching. So having a guy like Wandy Peralta with his dynamic stuff, I could see the Brewers attempting to fix that. Also, Jordan Hicks. Jordan Hicks, to me, flamethrower, very high velocity, and I believe that the Brewers could do well with a guy like Jordan Hicks. I think they could work on fixing his mechanics, just like they did with Abner Uribe. The biggest thing about him coming up was his control, and the Brewers did well fixing what they had with him. I do believe the Brewers could fix Jordan Hicks here moving forward and try to develop him into another high-leverage reliever for him. Looking at starting pitching, I'm looking at guys like Michael Wacha coming from the San Diego Padres. Michael Wacha kind of had a better season last year for the Padres. See if we can't get his stats to pull up here. Let's see. Right here, we got his stats pulling up. Michael Wacha last year for the Padres. He had 134 innings pitched. He had a 3.22 ERA. Not a bad ERA for Michael Wacha. Only 15 home runs given up, 124 strikeouts. Michael Wacha kind of had a bounce back year. After his struggle there in 2021, 2020, 2019 almost, all the way through 2021, he was struggling there across the board with the Cardinals, then with the Mets, then with the Rays. Got to Boston, got his ERA down to 3. Now he's sitting there with the Padres with that ERA down to 3 again. So maybe bringing a guy like Michael Wacha, some experience there, some postseason experience, bring him in and see what he can do in this rotation. Also, Brandon Woodruff. I look at Brandon Woodruff out there on the free agent market, and it makes me sad. Maybe you can get Brandon Woodruff to sign back on a smaller contract because of that injury. Maybe he signs back for something small, tries to work back through that injury, and gives you a couple years. Along with him, I'm looking at guys like Lucas Giolito. I think Lucas Giolito could be a great option for the Brewers. Let's see if we can't, now that we got our internet figured out here, we can look up some stats here for Lucas Giolito. Lucas Giolito right now, last season he got a couple teams last year with the White Sox, then the Angels, then the Guardians. We'd be looking for, with Lucas Giolito, you're looking for a bounce back year. Last year with the White Sox, a 3 ERA. Ended up with the Angels, had a 6, and then with the Guardians, had a 7 ERA. So nothing fantastic out of him there. But you look back at his past, and that's what you have to look with these pitchers is, what can the Brewers do to fix them? Lucas Giolito's got some stuff. He's got some junk that he can throw, and maybe the Brewers can kind of home that in and try to limit. The long ball has really bit him. Looking at with the White Sox, 20 home runs given up. The long ball has bit him. Maybe the Brewers can kind of develop him and keeping that on the ground. Strikeouts are still high with him. I mean, 131 there with the White Sox. He had 34 with the Angels and 39 with the Cleveland Guardians. So he's over 200 strikeouts last season there. So still impressive work out of him there. But I just really, this is going to be it's going to be a stretch to go and try and get Lucas Giolito and try to fix what Lucas Giolito has. Also, Alex Wood. Alex Wood last season, I thought Alex Wood had a fantastic season last year, and I would not be opposed to the Brewers bringing him in. Last season with the Giants, he was impressive. Pulling up his stats right now. Alex Wood, lefty, bringing in a lefty, another lefty that rotation. Had a 4 ERA last year with the Giants. Not really jumping off the board, but it wasn't a bad year for Alex Wood. And that's kind of where I'm at with him, is that the Brewers, very good with pitchers. Bringing in a guy like Alex Wood with the stuff he has, I believe that the Brewers could fix some of these guys and kind of develop them back into what kind of pitcher they really are. They have the stuff, they just are missing a piece of their mechanics. And I think the Brewers could fix guys like Lucas Giolito, maybe Alex Wood, Michael Wacha, bringing them back to what we've seen from them here over the years, bringing that mechanics back out. They still have the dynamic stuff. They're just missing location. They're doing some herky-jerky stuff in their movements. So maybe the Brewers can kind of fix that kind of stuff. Looking at guys like Dallas Keuchel, he'd be in that same boat with them. Trevor Bauer, that's an interesting one. Trevor Bauer coming back in that free agency pool, coming back from Japan. Maybe the Brewers give a chance on Trevor Bauer, trying to add him into their rotation there. And guys like, these are long stretches, but Jordan Montgomery, Jack Flaherty, those could be some options. Michael Lorenzen, gonna probably demand pretty high, but those would be options there in the starting pitching pool. I don't know the Brewers get into that money game with those guys, but definitely options for this Brewers team. But with that is about all I have. The Brewers sitting in the middle of winter meetings right now. You never know what the Brewers are going to do. Sometimes they surprise you, like 2017 when they went out and they got Christian Yelich and they got Lorenzo Cain. That was a massive a surprising move. But over the years, we've been used to nothing happening. So you never know with this Brewers organization what they're going to do. They surprise you and then they tick you off at the same time. It's like you never know what is going to happen. But with that, that is about all I have for you guys today. It has been awesome chatting with you guys. We'll be back here tomorrow to give our preview for the weekend. But until then, we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow. Deuces.